Let's find out more about where that situation stands. We are joined by Edwin Makuya. He's a trade policy analyst. Mr. Makuya, great to have you on the show with us today. Now, let's start off with what started all this. It was basically the Congolese banning imported soft drinks and beer from Zambia. Now that the border has reopened, are those issues completely resolved today? And give us a sense of why it became such an issue in the first place.
Thank you so much for having me on the program. Yes, of course, it was not a good situation in the sense that trade was disrupted between the two countries. As you may know, that Zambia and DRC have been very good trading partners for quite a long time. And there have been efforts in the past through regional trade agreements and the WTO to ensure that trade is facilitated within the region, that's the SADC region, to ensure that there's smooth flow of goods. So what we saw was a situation that was very worrying in the sense that both Zambia and the DRC are members of COMESA and SADC. And there have been several efforts that have been going on in the background in terms of trying to see how we can improve the trade flow in Kasumbalesa. But then the situation could have not escalated to the extent to which it did if both member states, of which I talk of DRC and Zambia being member states of SADC, could have adhered to some of the trade rules agreed to in this instrument. So what we saw, I think, could have been resolved using other means, because shutting of the border, of course, has got an impact on the welfare of both consumers in DRC and Zambia, and then Zambia also being a transit route for goods coming from the south. So I would say, yes, we're happy that the borders are open, but we feel more needs to be done, especially through certain instruments within the SADC protocols to ensure that this does not occur in future.
And of course, you mentioned SADC, and that's what makes this so surprising, because just as recently as May, ministers from both the DRC and Zambia met and signed a cooperation agreement to facilitate cross-border trade, of course, under SADC. We saw them talk about a draft framework around solutions to challenges that, of course, have commonly faced transporters on that border point. What happened with that agreement? What went wrong so that we found ourselves here today?
Yes, so what led to that framework, of course, supported by SADC. So ministers from both countries came together in the sense that the persistent challenges that have been going on at Kasumbalesa border posts are well known by both countries. So the meeting facilitated by SADC to review the draft framework was a good initiative, and both countries are committed to ensure that the solutions are found to the delays and other challenges faced at this border. But as it stands, of course, that agreement is still a draft. Up to now, it has not been actualized. It's yet to be formally signed. Of course, I'm sure there are internal processes that need to go through, both from the DRC side and Zambian side. So yes, that was a good move, but not until it's actualized are we going to see a permanent solution to that. But of course, we're happy. Part of that meeting, of course, led to Zambia, agreeing to improving the road infrastructure at one of the border in Sakanya. So we'll see road development and then also some other infrastructure, because Sakanya is believed to would help to decongest Kasumbalesa border. So as in short, the agreement is not yet fully signed.
And you mentioned road infrastructure, congestion. Is it clear what exactly are the issues that are angering transporters at this border point? Give us some of the major challenges that they're facing at that Kasumbalesa border point, and what are some of the long-term solutions to them?
Okay, as you know, Kasumbalesa is one of the busiest borders in the SADC region, second largest. And when you look at the volume of trucks and transaction at that border, they're quite huge. We're talking of over 1,500 transactions in a day. So in order to facilitate smooth flow of goods, there is need to have efficient customs procedures so that there's a smooth flow of goods. We are aware of the trade facilitation agreement, of course, which dictates that countries must have predictable procedures so that it's easy to allow the free flow of goods. But we've seen that predictability and transparency is still an issue. Not only are we talking about Kasumbalesa, but in most African countries. So there is need to basically find a long-lasting solution, and infrastructure still remains a challenge. If you go to Kasumbalesa, you find long queues of trucks, and some of them not parked in appropriate places. So we believe this is a challenge for both countries, because on the side of DRC and the Zambian side, that this issue needs to be looked at, and with the support of the regional body SADC, we believe we can find a lasting solution to this.
And as you mentioned, Mr. Makuya, Kasumbalesa is the second busiest land border crossing in that SADC region. Give us a sense of how critical a solution is to both nations, because of how critical this border point is to their economies.
All right, so we're looking at Zambia being a transit point for most of the goods that are transiting into the DRC, coming from the southern corridor, which is the north-south corridor. And it's important that the borders at the border at Kasumbalesa works in the sense of being more efficient, because this is an important border, and Zambia also exports more into the DRC. So it's even just the implication of the border being closed, and then also having that ban from the DRC. It would have had huge implication on the manufacturing sector, which exports more into the DRC. We could have seen more job losses in the manufacturing sector, which, of course, even up to now, still struggling with energy issues. So this is a critical crossing point, and it's important that we see to it that there's lasting solutions are found, so that trade is not disrupted now and in the future, and just to see to it that our relationship with one of Zambia's largest trading partner is restored. We're happy that the borders are open, but there's more that needs to be done.